Hey, what's up? What's good? I really do hope you've all been doing great. On my end, it just feels so awesome to be back, this time showing love to a playlist that I do not cover all too much. Given that, despite my love for anime, there is only so much crossover and presence of Africans in anime. However, in this entry into the Anifrica playlist, I have prepared for you the legend of the Black Samurai, Yasuke. Of which I would love to start by asking for two things. Firstly, kindly do not cancel me. I just love doing voices. It comes from a place of love, trust me. And secondly, the channel is slowly growing. We have just hit 500 and I am feeling good. So, if you can hear my voice right now and you are not subscribed, scroll down below. Come on, hit that subscribe button for me. Okay? Good. Let's begin. Yasuke,
the Samurai,
is a 2021 original net anime by Studio Mappa, loosely based after the historical African warrior who served under the Japanese Daimyo Oda Nobunaga during the samurai conflicts of the 16th century Sengoku period. And that opening segment might be what actually defines this as loosely based, as the rest of the story, its elements and the world are set in a fictional alternate historical reality. Try saying that 3 times as fast, which is ripe with supernatural and sci-fi presences. The plot of this story is your stock standard samurai escort mission, where Yasuke is entrusted with the protection of a young girl with mysterious magical powers. This young girl, who goes by the name of Saki, is touted to be the key to defeating the demonic warlord Yami no Daimyo. But she has to reach her full potential in order to have any hopes of accomplishing this. Thus, she has to travel up north to meet the special doctor. And for the sake of not delving into any spoilers with this, you pretty much have it. For as you would expect, the rest of the story takes us through the adventure of our two protagonists through this historical science fantasy. Yeah, they really mix it up, clashing with the bounty hunters, the mercenaries, and the army of the Dark General, all who serve the demonic warlord Yami no Daimyo. Speaking to the more technical aspects of this, the animation was done by Studio Mappa, and if you are an anime fan or if you have ever come across a Studio Mappa production, then it will come as absolutely no surprise to you that this is an absolutely gorgeous piece of art for you to feast your eyes upon. The line work in each of these characters' illustrations is clean and the animation is smooth as f***. And oh, I might have forgotten to mention that this is a very mature product. If not in the thematic value of some of the plotlines covered by the story, then definitely it is very prominent in its action scenes, creating some of the crispiest sakuga there is to offer. And do not even get me started on these three, cause you do not want to get these mages dancing. Another technical standout is the voice acting, with the Yasuke anime boasting equally engrossing dialogue deliveries in both the Japanese dub and the English dub, which should again come as no shock considering their star-studded cast that featured names such as Amy Hill, Sakakibara Yoshiko, Nakauchi Paul, Gwendolyn Yao, Rie Tanaka, and Hira Takehiro, with the titular character Yasuke being afforded the strong black stoic voices of Soejima Jun in the Japanese dub and Lakeith Stanfield in the English dub. I also must say that the show does rather well enough, to cover the historical context relevant to the titular character. Most of it though is covered in the very first episode, starting quite ironically with the end of his service to his daimyo Oda Nobunaga following his death in the Honnoji incident. A little after that, we are introduced to their first encounter where Yasuke is still in the service of the Italian Jesuit trader Alessandro Valignano. And whilst we have very limited historical documentation on his original name, place of origin, and ethnicity or tribal background, this show does give him one.
What is your name?
Eusebio Ibrimo Baloy.
What?
Eusebio Ibrimo Baloy.
This motherfucker.
The long popular historical account of Nobunaga-sama having Yasuke thoroughly cleaned as he did not understand his skin color to be, well, actual skin, was of course also portrayed. And after this, what is left of Yasuke's records is his service to Oda Nobunaga, which is explored through various flashbacks. So if I were to be asked, I would say that from a technical standpoint, this anime is firing on all cylinders. However, from a storytelling perspective, it just doesn't quite match it. Earlier, I described this story as a stock standard samurai escort mission, and if you have watched any other samurai property with this kind of journey, then you will not find anything new or anything quite inspired in this story. It really isn't reinventing the wheel in general, and if I must say so myself, I do not feel like it elevates any of the genres that it is a part of, and it also doesn't evolve the tropes and archetypes for the characters created to drive this story. For the first point of criticism, I will actually admit that that is a personal peeve. The mixture of historical fiction or fantasy as well as supernatural elements and sci-fi elements to boot just felt like a bit too much to chew. And whilst it creates aesthetically astounding visuals, it just feels like a bit too much. But then again, just to be clear, that is a very personal peeve. On the other hand, looking at the characters, this is where I feel I can give a more objective take. All the major characters are uniquely designed and that is a huge plus. However, immediately you meet them and know exactly to which archetype they fit in or to what tropes they are feeding, then there is nothing there to surprise you, which quite honestly takes away from the experience, as very early on you already know where this story is headed. Heck, depending on the character or the scene, you might be able to predict what they say or do next. A big reason for this, if I had to contemplate one, would be its runtime, having only 6 episodes to its name and each episode running for roughly half an hour. And whilst I did not plan on doing a deep dive on any of the characters other than Yasuke himself, this is the Anifrica playlist, so I have to give love to the character of Achoja. It would seem there was more than one African brother present in Japan at this point in time, eh? Achoja was an African shaman and a mercenary who was tasked with catching Saki, who was traveling with Yasuke. Dropping the accent cause I was just about to get lost in it, Achoja as well as the rest of the mercenaries, whilst not being main characters, actually do get a lot of screen time in this series. And spoilers, Achoja actually is a black man who does not get killed by the end of the show. Woo! Seems like Yasuke was finally giving some respect to brothers. Anywho, falling in line with the general criticism I did give to the character writing in this show, Achoja is very one note. He is only after one thing and one thing only: money. And in his pursuit for it, his storyline leads to many encounters with Yasuke where they actually do end up developing a warrior's respect for each other. The character has a very unique approach to combat, conjuring ethereal golems through traditional African spiritual practice to do his bidding for him. He even gets a badass final stand, where he uses the allies' fortress of magical power to enhance his conjurations, bringing forth a summoning that edges the protagonist's side over for the W. Quite honestly, he does end up being one of the more interesting characters from this show. And again, with such little crossover between anime and Africa, it is nice to have someone like him as an addition to the roster. Maybe, just maybe, if this show was a bit longer, we would have had much more to write home about this character. However, and quite rightfully so, we had to dedicate most of the time to the main Mandingo warrior.
You didn't say that. Tell me you did not just say that.
With all that said, that is not to say that this show is short of entertainment. And even if I did not watch this in 2021 when it dropped, I am very glad that I actually found the time to watch it now in 2024. And of course, this being the year of our Lord, insert the year that you are watching this video in, I would be remiss to post this without addressing the current political situation around the subject matter of this video. Later this year, gamers are expecting the drop of the new Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which features 2 playable characters, Naue Are, and, you guessed it, Yasuke. So, the gaming industry has been subject of many a controversy over the past couple of years, and if you are one of the complainants of the Assassin's Creed Shadows game for issues such as pricing, features, game modes, early access, and the likes, then all well and good. However, if your biggest issue with the new Assassin's Creed game is that it has a black character in a playable role, then
You have no idea what honor is, boy.
Now, just to be very clear, I am going to preface my statements by saying this. I do not believe that the inclusion of Yasuke in the Assassin's Creed game is a particularly good idea. Well, not initially. Maybe as a DLC I could see it working. Now, with all of that out of the way, I am speaking directly to the following people. Starting with those who claim that Yasuke wasn't a real samurai, which is extra infuriating as they are dragging you into a battle where there is actually historical record. Would you just pick up a book?
Read, nigga! Read!
And was otherwise seemingly treated as an equal by his peers. Yasuke was also eventually given a katana from Nobunaga, apparently conferring the title of samurai upon him, as only samurai were permitted to carry such a weapon at the time.
Next up are the ones that claim that this is a game set in Japan without a Japanese lead, which they actually mean a male Japanese lead, as they are clearly ignoring the primary playable character in Naoe Are, who is a shinobi or kunoichi. But these gamers will not bring up because they want a male Japanese lead instead of the black historical figure. And the reason that I call her the primary playable character is because in Assassin's Creed, as the name Assassins suggests, is a game that is based off stealth, and shinobi or kunoichi are quite literally ninja. Whilst the samurai angle brought about by the inclusion of Yasuke is for a more straight up brawler approach to the missions, which might be a new game mechanic that they were introducing. And for that very particular point, I am more receptive of complainants and critics who actually brought about the point of him being very inconspicuous. But even in Black Flag, the very best Assassin's Creed game by the way, you, a very Caucasian man from the mountains of Caucasus, could actually pull off stealth in very predominantly black Caribbean locations. Heck, we can even bring comparisons to a very recent and critically acclaimed piece of media, Shogun, where my Naval Captain John Blackthorn's arrival to these Japans did not seem half the offense to the people, or even my Portuguese enemies, as the inclusion of a black samurai seems to have been an affront worthy of riling up these so-called gamers.
Worse than that, it's vulgar!
However, it seems that this is the one game these gamers want to be very historically accurate about, despite their ignorance over the historically accurate black samurai. All in all, Ubisoft fell off a long time ago, and I am not making any statements in defense of Ubisoft or their decision to include Yasuke. What I am saying though is that in the trend of inclusion, and after a long line of character racial washing, the loudest and probably the most vile complaints always come up when this character is of African descent.
Selective outrage!
And to that extent, I feel that Yasuke's name and legacy, which is ironic because we don't actually know his real name, might forever be tarnished or be the subject of controversy, despite his story actually being very prime for a movie of its own. But that was just a very long-winded tangent. Anyway, do let me know down below your thoughts on the anime Yasuke. And feel free to give me any ideas of what you would like to see on this playlist of Anifrica. Also, if you have not watched those yet, feel free to visit that playlist right here to watch more of the Anifrica videos. And till next time, it has been your soon-to-be favorite Uncle Omari, and I simply cannot wait to see you all in the next one.